Hey everyone. So consider this video like a follow-up to the one I did before on cross contour lines. If you haven't seen that video already, I'll put a link up so you can see it. I think it's pretty useful because I shared some tips on about the importance of using cross contour lines when you're trying to render forms to make them look three-dimensional. That's perhaps one of the most important aspects of drawing with pen and ink. You have to be aware of cross contour lines and how to use them. Now, if you remember, I had shared with you that one of the most important things when it comes to cross contour lines you should consider is the structure of the form. Now, of course, I have to take a moment to thank you guys so much for supporting the book. It's meant so much for all the support, all the feedback I've gotten, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, even via email. I thank you so much, guys. And for those who have taken the time to go on Amazon and left a comment, it means a lot that you guys do that. And thanks so much for that support. You have to be aware that if this is a form, you have to be aware of, or you should be aware of, the orientation of this form. So for example, you can have three forms like this, and I discussed this in the last video, but that was a quick recap. This could be this way. So if it's oriented away from you, most of your cross contour lines will be in this direction, not necessarily cross like this, but they can actually be diagonal. But the thing is, they would be accentuating the orientation of this form. Likewise, if it goes like this, then most of the forms would actually be in another direction. So for example, you could have lines that actually are like this, and you can actually have lines that are like this. One of the most important things that I should mention when it comes to cross contour lines, the way to practice it is to draw from life. Drawing from life enables you to see things with depth in a way that when you look at a photograph, you're not able to capture as well, even though this form is like this. Now, it is not flat. It is not like this. It is not flat. So imagine this like being like a cutout of a piece of cardboard or something like this. All right. It's not flat. It actually has a lot of depth. Even though it goes like this part is further away from you. So that means your cross contour lines would more go like this. And as it comes around, then it would start going like this. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like this is going away from you and this is coming around to you, and then it turns around. So you have to be aware of those subtle little things when you're actually, applying the cross contour lines if you want it to look three-dimensional. Of course, you can just ignore that completely and just use lines that have no respect for the form whatsoever. And that's fine if that's your style. But I feel like, it's good practice to observe the form. Where does the form seem to project from the surface, or it seems to rise from the surface, and it seems to be in low relief? See here, it's like convex, concave, convex. All these things would be reflected in your cross contour lines. You're not just arbitrarily just putting down hatch marks. You'd actually be, your eyes should be flowing like this, following, making entrails over the forms. Even something as simple as this. See that? So even here, that's actually furthest away from us, you should still feel like that's further away, and you could use lines to actually accentuate that, doing something like this. And then with each one, treat it differently. So for example, with this, you can imagine that it's going like so. And as it turns around, you see, this is really good practice for getting a sense of how to control the orientation of a form with the different cross contour lines. And you should actually feel as if you're going over this thing. And what does it feel like? With some of them, you can actually make it concave. So these are really useful things you can do when you want to practice cross contour lines of the form. All right, so let's kind of apply that to drawing the ear, and hopefully you'll get some tips from this that you can apply to your own work. I usually begin my inking with a simple line drawing, but I decided this time I'd actually use my pencil just for you to be able to see how I'm thinking and actually create some cross contour lines across the forms so you can see the way that I'm actually mapping things in 3D before actually going with the pen. And then I actually go in first with my pen to kind of like reinforce some of those cross contour lines in my mind. So that sets the tone for my further cross hatching and whatever lines that I'm going to be using afterwards. So in my mind, I'm already thinking in a three-dimensional way. I'm not seeing this as a flat form, but I'm seeing the convolution of all the forms as they go in and out, front and back, and through space. And I'm trying to follow that movement. And something you'll notice is that the first marks that I put down generally sets the tone for the orientation of the form, or basically indicates how I see it. So that's something that's very important, I think. Your first line should be, you should at least give them some thought, because they will set the tones for the lines that will follow. And that's pretty much what I do in most of my drawings. I make sure that the first sets of lines are the ones that kind of establish things, the structure of the form, the curvature of the form, the orientation of the form. And then afterwards, I may add to that based on texture, light and shadow, and so on. But, structurally speaking, those lines are established first. Okay, so as you can see, all I did here was just follow the curvature of the form, and then with respect to the light and shadow, that will determine what sides will I actually render. And just some simple little things to point out here. When you have a form that curves like this, I've seen sometimes people make the mistake of having the lines come straight from the sides like this, or sometimes you'll see like they're trying to have the lines come around, but instead they'll do something like this. Now, not that this is necessarily incorrect, but it doesn't really accentuate the curvature of the form. A simple little thing that I do in my practice is that you kind of start, it's almost like you're doing like imagine this curve and you're doing like this. You're riding the curve and then you flick around. You ride the curve and flick around. And this is what I do. I kind of start from the edge and I ride it up a little bit and then see, and it's much more effective than this. And of course, as I said, pay attention to where the forms are going. And this is one of the most effective exercises you can use to actually get some really good practice in making cross contour lines. And actually, this is pretty simple. You can make this even more complicated, more convoluted. And as you do that, try to use your lines to wrap around it. And even do the same exercise and then use different cross contour lines and force the eyes to interpret it in a different way. And that's the beauty and trick about cross contour lines. It actually gives you the power to dictate how that form will be interpreted. That's the power of cross contour lines. All right. So hopefully this was useful, and you can find stuff in this you can practice and apply to your own work. If you liked it, found something inspiring or useful, please give the video a thumbs up. And as usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, guys.